The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering Co-op Advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, straight from Montreal via a sold-out show in Brattleboro last night, Jay Wood stops by the studios for an impromptu live music Tuesday before he heads to Northampton to play another sold-out show at the Iron Horse.
And we'll get a preview of Springfield's sordid sorceress history at Springfield Museums with an exhibit that looks at the area's colonial ties to the witch trials with curator Elizabeth Kapp.
But first, sheep.
And a reconnection to an industry in agriculture that once had a strong hold on the area.
Where do you want to be?
We want to see the sheep.
Yep.
We should walk up.
And it's time for another Local Hero Spotlight with Claire Morneau from CISA, the local hero, folks. We're in Buckland, which we've been having a long off-the-air conversation about Buckland and its history and the complications with Shelburne Falls being half in Buckland and half in Shelburne and is part of Buckland and Ashfield and all that. But what's your name here in solid Buckland?
Okay, hi, I'm Marty Ferguson, and this is my farm. It's Walking Cloud Farm.
Walking Cloud because sheep look like little walking clouds?
Actually, it's named for the mist that comes up the valley in the mornings, which is absolutely beautiful.
Also, sheep look like walking clouds.
It doesn't
Before
hurt.
sharing.
What's your name?
Lonnie York. I'm from Shelburne, Mass. And I've been involved with the Mass Sheep and Woolcraft Fair for 49 years.
Wow. And what's your name?
Barbara Goodchild from Shelburne Barbaric Farm, and I help out with the fiber contests at the Mass Sheep and Woolcraft Fair.
And we were just at your farm a couple weeks ago.
Indeed you were.
You and your musical husband playing all things together and bagpipes and stuff. So much fun we had on your farm.
And the year of sheep of lambs?
Yeah, what letter year we're in? E?
We're in the year of E.
Where all the sheep over there are named by the letter E. And how do you name your sheep?
It just kind of comes to me sometimes at 3 in the morning. Every sheep has a name story, so when we meet them, I'll tell you some of their name stories.
Let's go meet them.
Okay, this breed is called Finn sheep. They're a purebred registered sheep from the country of Finland. They're known for being prolific, and they're also known for being friendly. Now, the sheep are friendly, but they're sheep, so when they see 6 of us show up, they're going to run.
We will do our best to appear non-threatening.
Now we're walking over this beautiful rolling stream with a bridge.
This is really nice.
Yeah.
Like, what? What is this? No.
What is happening? Oh, here's a friendly one.
That's Jigsaw. Jigsaw is a diva.
So you, Marty, are raising sheep for wool?
This is a multi-purpose breed. I am raising them to be something of a sheep enabler. I like to sell stock live to people, either for their own fiber flocks, as pets, or as part of commercial flocks. There are folks who raise these for meat for farmers markets. There are people who raise these even for dairy because they're prolific. When you have an individual with a good udder and good teats, they can make good dairy sheep and produce a lot of milk. So they're a multi-purpose sheep, and they do have lovely wool that's easy to spin. I raise them for all those purposes. I raise them to take care of my land, and I raise them because I'm one of those people who isn't going to live without animals.
And what do you do with the wool?
A lot of it I try to sell to hand spinners as raw fleeces, and I'll have hand spinners at the fair. The Sheep and Wool Festival is kind of my main gig. I take other wool to mills, and I have it made into spinning preparations or yarn. And that is a long process. It can take, Barb, 6 months, 9 months to a year for yarn.
Definitely for yarn. They just told me just to have it washed, combed, and put into roving so it's ready for crafts was a 6-month wait. If you want to go all the way to having a mill make handwear or socks, you're looking at a year and a half, maybe more.
Or we could have your husband Eric do it, right, Barb?
Well, he might spin it, but then you got to knit it into all those things. So it might still be a year and a half to 2.
Depending on how fast you are and how big the gauge for your yarn is.
Yep. And is the length of time just because there's not enough infrastructure to support the number of people who are raising sheep? Like, is that just because there's too much demand for the number of processors that still exist?
They have busier and slower times of the year. A lot of people shear in the spring, so that wool is being sent to be processed. Later in the year, November, December, sometimes it's only 2 to 3 months to get roving back.
There are more sheep and wool than there are mills. We don't have a lot of mills, and there's still some big mills where their equipment is so big that they need a 50 or 100-pound minimum of wool. I can't do that.
How many sheep do you have?
Right now I have 25 ewes. I've got 4 boys at a different location. So I'm at around 30, which is more than I should should have. Yeah, she likes to untie shoes.
One of the sheep is untying Khalees's shoes
Right.
that don't even
wait.
have
I
laces,
think
technically.
actually she ate the
Uh-oh, did she eat an aglet?
Yep,
she ate the
did.
clip.
The aglet has been eaten.
Goes down, goes through.
We'll find that one later.
She just went for my Fitbit.
Why do you like plastic?
I thought
lady?
that goats ate everything. I didn't know sheep did, too.
Oh yeah.
You notice none of us is wearing earrings.
So there is some greater demand than there is availability of the processing of this sheep's wool. Right, reminds me of the situation with people that are raising meat, that there's one abattoir in Athol that's trying to help everybody who's raising meat. What's the solution to this? Is there a building solution? People trying to figure out how to decrease that wait time, or?
The local farmers markets must be doing something in the smaller categories. Mass sheep and wool growers, there's a lot of wool and yarn at that event. We didn't start off that way. We started off with market lambs and shearing contests 49 years ago. We dedicated it to the youth at that time.
And you were one of the youth at that time, 49
No,
years ago.
I was a mother. We were part of Pioneer Valley Sheep Breeders. So that's what started Mass Sheep and Wool Craft Fair.
And it happens on Memorial Day weekend, right, at the Cummington Fair?
Never changed. Not Monday, Saturday and Sunday.
What will people see if they come to this?
They'll see a variety of the things you can do with sheep and wool, ranging from a sheep show where 4-H kids and adults bring their flocks. Meanwhile, while that's happening, I know I've been an observer to find out where my next ram or breeding stock might come from, so you have those people there. There's 3 barns at least of craft vendors that have taken the wool, and some of them do sell the meat.
So even if you're not raising sheep, you can go there and there's something for you.
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be demonstrations of different things you can do with the fiber. I think they're working on a sheepdog trial. The sheepdogs are so integral to management, so they try and have a demonstration about herding the sheep.
Like in the movie Babe. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
That'll do, pig.
With working border collies, that is not unreal.
With a pig, though.
They work pigs.
That'll do.
It seems like the mills are having kind of the same problem that farms are, where like people are aging out of it and not enough young people are interested in picking up the industry. Are you seeing that on like the smaller scale for mills and processing?
We have a new mill in East Hampton,
Oh.
which is fantastic. And I would say go down there and talk to Melinda and profile the mill.
Alchemy Fibers.
Oh, I didn't realize that they were processing.
They are. And
Cool.
They've got some product back already from them. It's gorgeous. I've got wool there that's going to be made into yarn and probably batting for felting. So yeah, and Melinda is high energy, knows what she's doing, and it's really great to have Alchemy there. And she'll be at Sheep and Wool. She's not a tweener, but she got into it. She got some machinery from people, I think, in Michigan who were retiring, and this machinery is the right scale for this size. And she's gung ho. What the wool scene is in a very long, slow transition. In the 70s, probably, polyester came along. The textile industry changed massively, and a lot of it went overseas, and I'm not going to get into politics or anything, but wool and natural fibers collapsed, and the mills collapsed here. Wool and wool fibers, I understand them now to be more of the hobby and leisure industry, because we don't have an American sheep industry on any scale anymore. And getting that back, it's not going to look like what a wool and textile industry looked like. So we're in a transition of trying to figure out what a textile industry might look like in this country, in the world. I think people should go to Mass Sheep and Wool and other wool fairs for fun. And people go gaga over all the stuff they can see. But then they can take the wool home and they can look at it and they can realize that it was made regionally. It was made locally, that we can do this. Wool's so sustainable. It's natural. It's not chemical. The sheep give back to the land. You know, if you graze them right, They're not emitting more carbon than they're taking in. Their wool is a carbon sink. There's all kinds of reasons to appreciate this kind of fiber. We got to start making waves so people start thinking about what they wear and how it's made and what the consequences of that are.
We are on a hilltop in Buckland where the clouds come over the rolling hills like walking clouds, and where a bunch of walking cloud sheep are, with Marty Ferguson from Walking Cloud Farm, and talking about the upcoming fiber fair that's coming to the Cummington Fairgrounds on Memorial Day weekend.
I was going to ask about land use and how that is related to livestock and fiber production. You know, obviously down in the valley, we have all these big flat floodplains and former floodplains, places that are great for growing vegetables. This seems like a great place for livestock because it is so hilly.
I'm not an expert, but I do drive my tractor across this sometimes, and it's not easy. I cannot see growing vegetable or grain cereal crops on this kind of land. This has historically been sheep land for centuries.
Lonnie York, you have been doing this fiber fair for almost a half a century. What have you seen change in that observable time?
I think we've moved from sheep to wool at that fair.
Meaning it was for meat before, or for?
Yeah, it was
Mostly livestock.
It was it was only sheep, and we had lead line. That is a parade of wool fabrics. We had contests, shearing contests. We had lots of things for the youth. I too was a 4-H livestock leader in sheep club for 25 years, and that just phased out. But now I won't say wool products have taken over, but they are very popular at that fair. It's a cheap date, I'll call it, because you enter by carload, so you bring your family and learn some things.
You were talking about the trajectory of the Sheep and Woolcraft Fair, and I was thinking about the fast fashion, sort of who's interested in locally raised wool, and just curious how the local food movement of the last couple of decades has interacted. You know, there's been a lot more interest in buying local food. Everyone eats 3 times a day, so it's not that tough a sell to say, buy local tomatoes, look for local corn when it's in season. But not everybody knits or needle felts or spins. So yeah, just curious how those things interact or if they feel separate.
Barb, everybody's pointing at you.
They're pointing at me because I do farmers markets. There is a lot of farms that sell their meat and wool products at the farmers markets, but a lot of those same farmers, I don't see them at the festivals as much. So it's kind of a different, it's part of that metamorphosis of what's going on in the area.
Which is sad, if you've been here long enough.
Why is it sad? Because it's the transition away from the meats into the wools, or?
No, it's just the losing of agriculture. Sheep, dairy, everything counts. There's still a lot of us hanging on.
And you're still milking cows.
I am. And we have sheep and pigs and chickens and eggs, a very large pet horse. And this is Tony's family farm, and we both grew up. We were 4-H romance. Our daughter is on a farm in Pennsylvania with milking 725 cows 3 times a day. So she's still in agriculture.
Yeah.
And the grandchildren are as well, just not sheep. It's just driving along and seeing what used to be and what now is in our rural towns. CISA's done a wonderful job of bringing back a lot of that. Beyond that, it's a little scary. For me, it is. And our 100 acres.
Besides size of herd, what else has changed about sheep raising in the time that you 3 have been doing it?
Feed has, because grain is more available. They just lived on grass and hay. They didn't get feed until they were lambing, but that has changed an awful lot.
I've been doing sheep for less than 10 years, about 8 or 9, so I'm not the
You're
person.
the newbie here.
I'm the newbie. There is a lot of management resources available, management science. There's a lot of information that it's right at your fingertips on your computer about how to build stuff, how to manage your parasite loads. Growing up without being in an active farming family, I have farmers in my history.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it without some of those resources. That said, I've had tons of support in this area. The people in these towns are extremely supportive of local agriculture. I haven't, we got here from another state, and I couldn't believe how outgoing and supportive and gung-ho people were for somebody starting a farm. CISA's there to help. And so there's support, but again, it's like, how do you make sure that that is permanent? How do you make sure that the land prices remain manageable? How do you get younger people into it? It's not dying, but it's changing, and it's hard to know which way it's changing.
Like I said, we've moved a long way since a market lamb sale, but we always have a potluck supper. That has not changed in 49 years.
That sounds so great.
Everybody's friendly, and there's still a lot to see besides just people's wares to buy. It's not just a consumer event. It's definitely an event where you can go and watch and learn and see and just absorb. They're fun.
And I'll add that being around sheep is very calming. I feel like petting this one has been like a free therapy session.
I've been counting them the whole time I'm here, and I'm half asleep.
Sheep are the best. They are legit my favorites.
And
it's
you
not
guys
just when I was
came
born.
after a week of rain. These sheep were so dirty.
I knew that rain was good for something.
Oh God, after a long winter in the barn, it's just like, I'm like loving this.
Well, thanks for taking so much time on showing us your farm here in beautiful Buckland.
Yeah, you bet.
Find more information on the Massachusetts Sheep and Woolcraft Festival at masheepwool.org. Thanks to Marty, Lonnie, and Barbara for taking time to speak with us.
We've got the dulcet, genre-agnostic sound of Jay Wood coming up just after we find out about the witches. Spells and accusations fly with the upcoming Witch Panic exhibit at the Springfield Museums.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Window World of Western Mass, a local family business with experienced craftsmen offering skylights, siding, gutters, and doors. windowworldofwesternma.com.
I'm not exactly sure this is something we should be proud of, because Salem, Massachusetts is famous for executing women who were accused of being witches.
Who basically were supporting themselves without help of external community, often male-influenced.
Yeah, anybody who was an outsider could have been accused of being a witch. But before Salem made it famous, Springfield did it first.
We are the city of firsts!
Yeah.
My name is Elizabeth Kapp, and I'm the curator of history at the Springfield Museums.
This Saturday, a new exhibit opens that talks about this piece of history. What's it called?
The exhibit is called Witch Panic, Massachusetts Before Salem.
Tell us about our Springfield witch story.
It begins with a married couple named Hugh Parsons and Mary Parsons. They were married in the Springfield Meeting House in 1645, but just 6 years later, they stood in the same meeting house facing the accusations of witchcraft made by their very neighbors and people that they used to call friends. In 1645, when the Parsons were wed, there were only about 100 people in the small settlement of Springfield. And so this panic really took a hold of the entire small town, and the fear and the terror that this unknown entity that was causing sickness, death, people wanted answers, and they found it in Mary and Hugh Parsons.
The irony of their last name being Parsons is too rich to ignore, but the couple was accused of being witches, not just the wife.
No, like so many stories, when it comes to witchcraft in the early modern period, the fears and the rumors of witchcraft started with Mary, but they really stuck in this case because of Hugh. Needless to say, they both Mary Lewis Parsons, her maiden name, and Hugh Parsons had characteristics, so to speak, that subverted traditional Puritan expectations. Mary herself had been married before. That was back in England before she migrated to the colonies. But she considered herself a very religious woman. The problem was that people were looking for answers for questions that they might not have wanted the real answers for. If you don't understand things like germ theory and these larger political movements that were happening, because King Charles was beheaded just before this Parsons witch trial, these larger global movements were impacting this small settlement in ways that the neighbors might not have even understood themselves.
We're speaking with Elizabeth Kapp, who is a curator here at the Springfield Museums, about Massachusetts Before Salem, a new exhibit that opens on Saturday here at the Springfield Museums about a witch trial that happened here in Springfield with the Parsons family. The Alan Parsons Project.
The Hugh Parsons Project.
Yeah. What was the evidence against it? Okay, she was married previously in England. What was some of the other evidence that was presented that they could have been possibly witches?
In the exhibit, we outline 15 different separate pieces of evidence that the Parsons neighbors lobbied against them. The neighbors were keeping track of these situations for over 3 years. So what really kicked off this feeling of mistrust and unease in Springfield was in 1648, the granddaughters of the founder of Springfield, William Pynchon, the Smith sisters, Sarah and Margaret Smith, died. That sparked this feeling of what exactly is going on, because these are William Pynchon's granddaughters. They're supposed to be arguably the safest out of all of the settlers in this remote Springfield town, but they passed, and that started people looking for answers. And one of those people who wanted to find answers was Mary Louise Parsons. She kept her suspicions to herself to a certain point until she just couldn't anymore. And she actually did make an accusation of witchcraft against another woman called Mercy Marshfield.
Oh, how the turns have tabled.
While Mary probably felt like she was doing the right thing there, instead of resulting in a witchcraft trial, that actually resulted in a slander trial. So Mercy Marshfield, who was being accused, began a slander trial against Mary Parsons. And because of social standing, Mercy Marshfield ended up winning. And that left Mary Parsons and Hugh Parsons in a difficult situation, because now they had to pay a fine. It was 3 pounds silver back then, or 20 bushels of hay, which was a lot of money. So there was that actual financial debt that they now had to pay. But Mary Parsons had spoken the part out loud you're not supposed to say out loud. She had uttered the word witches and witchcraft, so that got their neighbors thinking. Why does Mary Parsons know what a witch is or what a witch looks like?
She was weighing ducks in her backyard.
Logically, if she weighs the same as a duck, she's made of wood. And therefore...
Not quite, but the pieces of evidence that we explore in the exhibit can seem quite out there to our modern audience and ideas. For example, one really important piece of evidence that shows up time and time again in their trials, there was a cow that used to give healthy milk, and then all of a sudden one day it started giving sour milk that was tinged with a little bit of blood.
Strawberry milk.
This curdled, poisoned milk is part of it, because it was a supposedly healthy cow, started giving milk that was a little off, but that evidence was brought before William Pynchon, because he was the founder of Springfield, but he was also the magistrate, so basically the judge. And he goes on record to say that this changing milk must be a sign of something else at play. And then there's another piece of evidence that, again, is repeated time and time again at this trial. There's this other family, and it was dinner time. They were trying to make dinner. The woman of the house, she was making a bread pudding. It was the second bag pudding that she had tried making in about 10 days. The first one had failed. She attempted to make the second bagged pudding, and it came out of the cauldron, and it had been split from side to side as if a knife had cut it. Because not only this was the second failed bag pudding, and it cut so cleanly, then of course this was an act of some sort of ill intent, right? But the story does not end there, because the family was so convinced that this was a work of a witch that they actually committed a bit of a sin themselves and burned a piece of the failed bread pudding. That would have itself been an act of witchcraft, but they were concerned neighbors and trying to find this witch. So they burned this piece of bread pudding, and the person who comes to the door next is supposed to be the witch. Well, it was Bess Sewell who came to the door, and they discussed amongst themselves that it wasn't her. Then night fell, time went on, and they heard mumbling and foot shuffles behind the door, and there was a knock on the door, and who was it? It was Hugh Parsons. So we have stories of failed bread puddings and sour milk, but we also have stories of these children either falling sick, but in 1648 we have the death of the Smith girls. That's the difficulty in witchcraft. It's simultaneously very, very intense and very real. These were life and death moments, but it occupies an interesting place in our pop culture and our historical understanding.
It makes it kind of amazing when you see all of the things that they had as evidence, and you marvel at how humans will try to make patterns out of anything.
Oh, yeah. This exhibit at the Springfield Museums presents to you all of the evidence that the grand jury would have seen, right? So it's a little bit interactive.
Yes. So Witch Panic, Massachusetts Before Salem, the exhibit at the Springfield Museums, is an interactive experience for all ages because the exhibit expands our 2 different floors. So on our first floor, we explore the question, what is a witch? This approach, while it seems maybe a little bit simple, everyone's understanding of what a witch is and what it takes to be a witch is different. And all of those answers are influenced both by historical realities and our more pop culture understandings. And
so, you want to know which witch is which.
And we actually have a section that asks people, out of these pop culture witches, do you have a favorite? Do you have one that maybe you wouldn't consider a witch? And who have we missed? And there's definitely opportunities to don the iconic hat and enjoy the true histories behind iconic symbols like the broomstick and cauldrons or the pointy hat itself. But the story continues upstairs in the second floor, and that's where we dive really headfirst into the specific story of Mary Louise Parsons and Hugh Parsons and their 1651 witchcraft trial. We invite the viewer to act as a member of the grand jury. We ask them to review the evidence, and actually we are going to be asking them to pass judgment as to whether or not they are guilty or not guilty before revealing the true cost.
Should we reveal the true cost? I mean, it seems like a spoiler alert, but it's also 400-year-old history. So what happened to the Parsons here in Springfield?
The trial began in Springfield, but it couldn't stay in Springfield for many reasons, but one of them was William Pynchon, Springfield's founder, also the town judge magistrate. He himself was going through a bit of a troubling period. The year before, in 1650, he had published a book called The Meritorious Price of Our Redemption. He fancied himself a bit of a theological scholar, and so he wrote this book that was found by the Boston Council to be heretical. And it was actually one of the first banned books in English North America, and an executioner burned the copies of it in Boston Marketplace.
Ban executioner for the books.
Looks like another appointment in the federal government up for grabs.
All of that is to say that Springfield's usual trustworthy sources of unbiased opinions, like William Pynchon, were no longer that trustworthy. For that reason, and for many other reasons, the trial was eventually moved to Boston. Mary Parsons was first presented to the judges, and she was accused of 2 crimes. One is having familiarity with a familiar, and the other accusation that she faced was the murder of her own son. The trial took place, and the evidence that was collected in Springfield was presented. Many neighbors actually made the journey to Boston, about 100 miles, in 1651 to give testimony. The final judgment was that Mary Parsons was found not guilty of witchcraft, but she confessed to committing infanticide.
Whoa.
Yes. And so she was sentenced to be hung, but her final days are not recorded because she died in the Boston jail.
Or she was a witch and she escaped. With magic! We'll never know.
Hugh was tried before the Boston Council, but it was found that too much reliance was being placed on written evidence instead of people actually coming from Springfield and giving evidence. And so from the time that Hugh was arrested in Springfield to the time he was actually tried in Boston, he actually was imprisoned for over a year. So he faced trial, and he actually was found guilty initially, and then his trial was basically retried because of that lack of in-person evidence. And they found him guilty, but then the lower court retried it once again, And ultimately, there was not enough evidence for him to be considered a witch.
And how many years is this Springfield witch trial before the famous Salem witch trial?
This is 41 years before Salem. This is 1651.
So Salem just saw how fun it was and was like, hey, we should do that.
Yeah. Now they've got the Bewitched statue there. They're going to hold tourism industry around it. I like Springfield's style of tourism a little better. I mean, it is fun to be in Salem around Halloween, but the history to get us to that point, pretty bad.
The fascinating thing is that Springfield's trial is part of Salem's trial, because one of the very exciting objects we have on display as part of the Witch Panic exhibit is one of the remaining copies of that banned book, The Meritorious Price of Our Redemption. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, Mary Parsons' witch trial happened the same morning of William Pynchon's heretic trial, which happened in the afternoon. And so William Pynchon basically served as prosecutor, and then he served as the defendant. But the copy that we have, our copy, was owned by Cotton Mathers, the Puritan theologian who heavily influenced the Salem witch trials.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the exhibit isn't quite open yet, but I think we're going to get a little sneak peek. Let's go.
So we can't go too deeply into this area, but the section where we're exploring the truths and the myths behind witchcraft and how they're rooted in real histories. People can learn about the origins of cauldrons and broomsticks, but they can also practice using a hearth themselves.
They can practice witchcraft themselves.
I mean, it depends on your definition of a witch.
Science is magic.
Yep. Clark's third law, any modern technology introduced to a previous society would be perceived as magic.
Magic's part in this entire discussion is quite fascinating. But we also have sections that are dedicated to the daily life of colonists, the farming, the plantings that they would do, and their relationship with animals, because in this time, the definition of witchcraft was usually involved a relationship with a familiar or an animal or animalistic creature that was thought to help them with their devilish deeds.
Hey, what's a cat have to do around here to get something dead?
Salem, you've had enough to eat already.
And then we can move upstairs.
All right.
Fun thing about walking through the car, part of this is that, like, you get to go, oh, this is witchcraft, oh, that's witchcraft, all of this
all
is
these
witchcraft.
antique cars that are here. Is that Cadillac with the Grinch license plate, Dr. Seuss's?
Yes.
Awesome.
Stink, stank, stunk.
So here on the second floor, we dive a little bit deeper into the details of witchcraft, which can be for a more adult audience depending on who's coming. Visitors are invited to engage with this story because even though it might be silly or ridiculous to some of us, this was really a life and death situation for the people involved. People, when it comes to the topic of witchcraft, most of us bring our understandings of what a witch is already to the discussion, and I'm asking people to start with the human first. Mm-hmm. Start with the human Mary Parsons. Start with the person, Hugh Parsons. Hear their story and judge it from your own perspective instead of our modern understandings. That leads me to the ending of this exhibit, which is
right next to the Friendlies exhibit.
Yeah. I mean, ice cream is pretty wonderful witchcraft.
Yeah.
This wall, it's a wall dedicated to the accused witches of Massachusetts. Originally, when we were planning this exhibit, I had intended to include all of the accused witches of New England, but there were too many names.
Wow.
This entire exhibit is dedicated to exploring the story of two of these names. Each one of these names has a story in and of itself. Every person's name on this list was impacted, even if their story didn't end in their death or demise. This fear of the other and outsiders really makes lasting impacts that has changed the course, especially of Springfield, because after this trial, William Pynchon left. But it changed the course of every one of these persons' lives, this fear of the unknown.
Can't help but notice that another name from the story you were telling earlier is immediately after the Parsons. Bessie Sewell ends up one of the next people put on trial.
Witches of Massachusetts sure loved the North Shore. I mean, it's beautiful there.
I mean, they're from all over, but the Western Mass ones are the ones that pop out at me.
There's only a few. Most of these are...
Well, and one of the Northampton one is a repeat.
Springfield first and then Northampton?
No, Mary Bliss Parsons is
here.
Wait, Mary Bliss Parsons is different than the other Mary Parsons. So
Yes.
anybody with a Parsons name from Western Mass was a witch?
Not quite, but Mary Bliss's Parsons story is often confused, understandably, for Mary Lewis and Hugh Parsons' story. If you're looking up Mary Parsons witchcraft, make sure you're finding the right one from 1651.
Let the right one in.
Wow, no.
That's vampires.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite witch?
In researching throughout this process, I did come across a witch named Elizabeth Knapp from Connecticut.
And you're Elizabeth Capp.
Yes, and so that was quite something to come across that story. No relation that I know of,
Yeah.
but I'll keep you updated.
The Witch Panic at the Springfield Museums is an underwriter of NEPM, but that is not why we went there. We went there because if you knew that there was an exhibit about witches in your neighborhood, you would go see it too.
Yes.
Just saying.
And now we get to bring you a super exclusive live in studio with Jay Wood before his sold-out show with Tune Yards at the Iron Horse tonight.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413, and we welcome to Live Music Tuesday the genre-joining Montreal-based musician Jay Wood. Moving from hypnotic funk to morose jangles to beat-driven dance tunes, his music runs the gamut of modern pop. Jay Wood's releases continue to expand his sound and our expectations.
He has 2 full-length albums and several EPs, including last year's Grow On, under his belt, and more to come. He'll make a stop at the Iron Horse opening for Tune Yards tonight, May 13th, with whom he's released the single Big Tings, but this may be your only opportunity to hear any of that because that show is wicked sold out and has been for weeks.
Although we hear that Jay Wood has 3 tickets available, and he's going to give out his phone number afterwards. No, we're not going to do that. But we do welcome to the Fabulous 413 Jeremy Haywood Smith. Could be related to Khalees Smith.
I mean,
We don't know.
It's entirely possible.
AKA Jay Wood and keyboardist Brett Tixon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having
us.
Our
pleasure.
Let's do a song.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We'll do that one that was just playing.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't say you love me under the sun, as if you have made time for anyone. You can't hide on the feed. Who understands? Does it say? And will we make it out another day? Just try high out you can call my name, so wherever I am, I'll take the space and time to get to know you. 'Cause you don't have to be faithful. All I ask is checking in. No, no, no. Even if you're too worn down for quality time. 'Cause you don't have to be faithful. Hope that you're alright. No, no, no. All the time we missed hopelessly swiping down memory lane. Reminders show every day. Is it new or are we sinking? 'Cause you understate yourself shame. Too high on your dopamine, flying worlds away. Take the space and time to get to know you. Call your name. It's soon wherever I am. Take the space and time to get to know you.
That is Jay Wood.
Such a vibe.
I love it. With an assist from Brett Tixon, who are both playing at the Iron Horse tonight, sold out, supporting Tune Yards. I believe the penultimate show in the tour with Tune Yards. You have another show tomorrow night, and that's it?
Yep, that's the last one.
But you finally met them.
Yes, this
what was it
actually
like?
what happened.
Because when we talked to you before, you hadn't met them yet.
This is true.
Even though Tune Yards appears on one of your most recent singles.
This is true. They are exactly the same as every interaction, which has been super refreshing. They're exactly what you would expect them to be. Super chill, very fun, very quirky, nerdy people.
And Meryl Garbus will be in the town of her alma mater, Northampton, Massachusetts, because she was a Smith College student.
This is true, yeah. And what was it? Oh my God,
Brattleboro.
Brattleboro.
Thank you.
Brattleboro, yeah.
That's also, I guess, like where
Meryl's
she's from.
sister lives
yes,
there.
We met her as well
Yeah.
yesterday. Met the whole family, but. Yeah, we were there yesterday and learned about this crystal that is underneath the city that gives the whole art community its power.
Whoa. That is
Did not know
also
about that.
the theme of the television show Andor. So hopefully it doesn't go the same way as it went in Andor in some of the most recent episodes.
Well, I know how that movie ends.
Yeah.
Resources and resources.
Should we hear another song? Because we already talked to Jay Wood like 2 weeks ago.
This is true.
And we didn't get to hear you play any live music.
Yes,
But we
yeah.
could maybe hear extra live music and direct you to the podcast to listen to all the talking parts.
Okay.
Oh.
But when we come back from break, I'm going to ask my question.
Okay, let's hear another song,
ready.
and then we'll go to break, and then Khalees will ask her question, and then maybe we'll get a third song.
Whoa,
Yeah.
okay. Dang, okay. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Am I quieter? There we go.
Yay.
Hey, okay. Thank you. Dearly parted, thanks for all the tears I've met. Dearly parted, it's over, but I see you in the next life. I'm all for you'll be acting right. Dearly parted, stand right there and watch me go. Dearly parted, it's over, but I let you know it's my time now. So circling you roundabout. Oh, I just wanna thank you for the best years of my life. When I finally blown, I shall there's some loneliness that follows, but the best is yet to come. Just wanna let you know that I just wanna thank you for the best years of my life. When I finally blown, I shall there's some loneliness that follows, but the best is yet to come. Just wanna let you know that. Seems hard to go down roads I've never known. Seems hard to flow forward, not thinking what happens now. So I'ma do my best to make you proud. Well, I just wanna thank you for the best years of my life. When I finally blown, I shall get it, some loneliness that follows, but the best is yet to come. Just wanna let you know that I just wanna thank you for the best years of my life. When I finally blown, I shall get it, some loneliness that follows, but the best is yet to come. Just wanna let you know that. That's the first time I've actually gotten that ending this whole tour.
I was curious how you were going to make it work.
Oh, man.
Like, it was great. It's great. I'm so happy.
That is Jay Wood, who's playing the sold-out Iron Horse tonight with Tune Yards, getting an assist there on keyboard from Brett Tixon.
Thanks, Brett.
That's one of your favorite songs from a couple years ago.
Yep. Still one of my favorites.
And we
I love that song.
talked about that when we talked last time about the processing grief through music, but that's a beautiful way to do it.
Yep. Let's take a break.
And we will hear another song and Khalees's question when we talk with Jay Wood on the other side of this.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are having a special Live Music Tuesday today with Jay Wood and Brett Tixon, who are playing the sold-out Iron Horse with Tune Yards tonight in Northampton.
Indeed, and it's been an interesting tour for you, I'd assume. Like, what's the energy been like? Because Tune Yards is putting out a new album this Friday. You've been putting out new stuff, like trickling out as you come over this bout of writer's block. But like, what's the vibe? What's the energy been on this tour?
I think the energy of the tour has been pretty fun, honestly. I think we've all been having a great time doing the shows with everybody. Like, the crowds have been really receptive and super, super kind. Like, every show has been, like, we see people just loosening up as they get used to the songs. And, yeah, it's crazy to think that it's just like, all right, they're putting out an album on Friday, and we've just been with them before that whole thing has happened. So it's been cool to hear some of the newer songs live and everything. And their arrangement has been really, really inspiring. But it's been a lot of fun.
I want to be able to play this other song here, but you are a postal worker in Canada, right?
This is true, yeah.
So do you have to take a week off to come do a tour with Tune Yards and then go back to delivering mail when you go back to Canada?
Yes, yeah, I got a call from the office being like, hey, so just so you know, when you get back, you can go back on your route. I'm like, cool, that's sick. That's good to know there's work. So that's nice.
That's so nice.
Well, hopefully the Canadian Postal Service is in better shape than the U.S. Postal Service.
I think we're expected to go on strike soon, so.
Okay, interesting.
Not too far up.
And I'll just say a quick teaser. While we've had a lot of fun talking about witches and sheep and beautiful music today on the show, tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk all about the federal budget cuts that have hit all sorts of different organizations, including the Massachusetts Review, a literary organization with Jim Hicks. We'll talk with Claire Higgins of Community Action that is talking about some of the cuts that have impacted housing and heating and things of that nature, and Ilan Stabans, who runs Restless Books out of Amherst, and the cuts that the National Endowment for the Arts.
And perhaps some other folks who are experiencing the fallout.
We're hoping to get AmeriCorps in here. We're hoping to get Mass Mocha as well. So a little bit of a bummer tomorrow on the show. So enjoy this music as we head into your hump day for Wednesday.
Different vibe.
Beautifully acoustically arranged.
Yes. Sold out show at the Iron Horse tonight. So if you don't have tickets, this is your last opportunity today to hear them live in the 413.
Yes.
It is Jay Wood, and we've got Brett in the studio as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, y'all. It's been so lovely. Last song. Here we go. Okay. days. I wish I could try. I wish I could touch the sky. And I don't know. Someday I hope to survive. I'd like to be high on life, be free from what I own. What do you do when you're half past done? When you're not reserved if your life's begun? You can go anywhere. I don't know, but this way, this isn't fair. I swear I'm not broken. I'm just a little lost with a little guidance. I'll find my What do you do when you're half past done? No reserve if your life's begun. But you can go anywhere. I don't know, but this way just isn't fair. You can cry all you want. Look to the stars and on we go. 'Cause now is the time when we can say that we can pull for anything. That we can pull for anything. We did it, y'all.
So good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seriously. All been so lovely. Thanks.
Great.
We made it through.